I would never contemplate living and working anywhere else but in Britain.
Oh, that's a shame for you.
It isn't a shame. This is the land my God gave to me. I
It will
want to
still
shape
be
it
the
how I
land
want
of
it
your
to be.
forefathers, even if you pop abroad for a couple of years.
No. I want to shape Britain how I want it to be. I don't want to go abroad. If I leave this country, if I feel sufficiently motivated to leave this country, I ain't coming back.
Do you go on holiday at all to anywhere else that's not Britain?
I have not. No, I'll tell a lie. I've set foot off this country once. I went round the buoy at Whitby.
Okay.
All the rest of my life has been spent in Britain, England.
I think you're missing out, Alf. I really do.
No, I don't think I am.
Well, you can't miss what you've never experienced, can you? But the ability to meet people from all over the world is a privilege, but it's a privilege that we can make use of.
I take a different view to you, because I can read and I can learn about countries and I can see videos and all the rest of it, and I can know what I can empathise with what it's like in some of them countries. And
it's not the same as being there, Alf.
I don't think I'm missing out at all by not going abroad.
It's not the same as immersing yourself in the culture of somewhere, just watching a video about something online.
I don't see your point. I really don't.
Because travel,
I have not missed out one jot.
Travel, and particularly
By the way, just so that you know, I'm 72.
Congratulations. The opportunity to live abroad. I mean, travel is its own reward anyway. You'll never waste money on travel, in my opinion. But the opportunity to live abroad for whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, a couple of years, it really broadens your mind. It changes your perspective on things. And I think that that's something that young people could really benefit from. And even if they choose not to, as you have, Alf, I wouldn't want to rob them of the opportunity to do that. And that's what we've done with regards to European countries post-Brexit.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think we've gone away from the idea of training them here and what have you, to you talking about going to foreign parts.
Well, it was really, you that's taken us into this cul-de-sac,
I
Alf.
want the bosses here to be like they were when I started work, where you'd finished your schooling and the bosses had then to fine-tune you to how they work.
But we don't live in that world anymore, do we, unfortunately? And I agree with you that there should be more training available for young people and more opportunities available for young people. But part of giving young people more opportunities is giving them the opportunity to avail themselves of all of the countries that are on our doorstep from which they could potentially enjoy the opportunity to go and work there for a few months.
We can go back to them times if we choose to.
Why is it either or, though, Alf?
Well, as I say, I want our people to stay here. I want them to help me to shape this country how we want it to be. I don't want that.
What if they don't agree with you on how the country should be shaped?
Going abroad.
Okay, Alf. Thanks for your call. Take care.
It is a good morning because I believe, and I'm going to predict this right now, right here on LBC,
right.
that next Friday we are going to wake up to a turquoise tidal wave for reform in a massive rejection of the nasty, deceitful and untrustworthy Lib-Lab-Con uniparty.
The Lib-Lab-Con uniparty. And in what sense? Why do you think it's going to be a rejection of Starmer? I mean, that's not that unusual, though, is it? I mean, governments tend to do badly in local elections.
Well, it is, but I think for a couple of reasons, Lewis. Firstly, that over the last 14 years, we've seen, respectively, the Conservatives, Labour and the Lib Dems break almost every single promise they were elected on. And I think when it comes to Keir Starmer, as you rightly said, he has betrayed so many lifelong Labour voters, including my dear mum, who has now switched to Reform, on everything, on punishing savage cuts to welfare and the disabled, betrayal of farmers, betrayal of pensioners, ruthless betrayal of the waspy women who Keir Starmer said he was going to back. So they are going to take a real kicking, and deservedly so.
We can get to net zero by accident and make Ed Miliband very, very happy, Rachel Reeves very, very happy, and the rest of the country very, very happy.
How are we going to do that, sir?
We take the money away from the big oil and gas companies. Last year, the Department of Education by itself spent £1.7 billion on energy. £1.7 billion, right? We've got 32,000 primary schools, secondary schools, nursery schools across the country. We can put solar PV on their rooftops, put in a battery storage system to capture the excess solar, reduce their energy bills, and take that $1.7 billion away from the big energy companies, very few of whom are paying tax anyway, and put that money into our kids' education going forwards. We've got 5.4 million SMEs in this United Kingdom, small to medium-sized enterprises and businesses. We've got 9,000 large corporations. Between them all, there's 240,000 hectares of south-facing commercial and industrial rooftop. I've just modelled a small industrial facility up in Doncaster. Mm-hmm. They paid £161,000 for their energy bills next year. Using the co-located battery storage and solar system, it'll reduce their bill to £41,000 a year. It'll save them $2.5 million over the next 10 years, just off their electricity bills. The systems pay for themselves, Nick. I work for the UK's number one battery company.
So you are
Give Energy up in
from
Stoke.
a vested interest, as it were.
From an area of expertise, absolutely right, Nick. Yeah.
Okay.
We're UK. Absolutely phenomenal. We're out in Munich next week helping drive the European operations that we've got, and we're a UK company rather than a Chinese-based manufacturer.
Okay. Well, good luck. Do stay in touch. You certainly had some answers, Jason. I appreciate your input.
I'm going to try and stay calm and speak slowly because I literally feel sick to my stomach. I either want to cry or I'm in despair about this country.
Right.
I'll just give you a bit of background about me so that you know who I am. So I'm 46.
Yeah.
I've been brought up in the UK.
Yeah.
9 years ago, I became a single parent when my baby was 3 months old, and I fled domestic abuse. So it was a violent situation, and luckily I had supportive parents, and also I had a career previously. So I basically decided how will I, bring up my daughter and, pay my way. So I basically started my own business, and I managed to buy my own house. So I've never claimed anything from the government, even though, it's been a very difficult 9 years.
Gosh, it sounds absolutely epic what you've been through. My goodness,
Thank
incredible.
You.
What business is it? I'm just being nosy, really, but what kind of business did you set up?
You know what? I don't feel able to tell you much in terms of my personal details, just because I actually feel that this issue is being positioned as a right-wing issue, and I feel that I might be, it might come across badly for for my business, which is awful that I don't feel I can, speak well I can. But and we got through the pandemic, which is obviously really, really hard. Yeah. Now I've got the cost of living, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle to keep the roof over mine and my child's head. And I just don't know if I'll be able to, continue it. And the worry is, will I lose my home? Now, I just feel, people are in a situation with housing and the cost of living where if you want to rent, you have to pay 6 months in advance. It's crippling people. And we have people that are, like myself, really single parents with young children who can't afford to feed their children because of the cost of housing, because of the cost of utilities and everything. Yes. And I just think it's completely crazy that the government seems to have the money to pay for people from another country to come and actually get free accommodation and free, their expenses paid. I mean, there's stuff in the press about getting mobile phones, but I don't know if that's true. But they're getting accommodation. And people here, there's not accommodation for people in the UK already. People are struggling. What I would also like to ask the government is, what is the long-term plan? Are they really thinking that an immigrant, if they come and that house them and they go through the system, that when they can start to work, are they saying that they'll be able to afford to live here? That they'll be able to pay their way, that they'll be able to get a good job. Even people on jobs of £50,000 can hardly support their families. So what will happen is they'll either have to return to their country because they realise it's impossible to live here, or we'll have wasted so much money housing and supporting these people for what? I mean, it's just beyond crazy. It's also incentivising migrants. So it means, it's like, oh, great, we'll get this and that. This is why they're travelling across different European countries to get here.
I think the biggest problem we've got here is that it feels like the hierarchies of shall we say, escalation of charging process, i.e., the escalation of the severity of what he may or may not have done wrong, done in reverse. And that makes it feel political, because if we can't get him for murder, we'll get him for misconduct. So then we'll be able to demonstrate we've kicked him out the force. I wonder if, and that's, I think, what is making the rest of the firearms groups within the country feel, and the police forces generally, feel really nervous, because they operate under strict procedures and processes. If those procedures and processes are not being used properly, either in the way they're conducting their duty or way the rest of the organisation is investigating them when they've done their job, how do they know that they are able to perform their job correctly in the first place? It calls the whole thing into question, doesn't it?
I think you're right. Ideally, it would have been the investigation into the use of force investigated by the IOPC, and then, oh my gosh, there was a lot of use of force, maybe we need to take this to the criminal court and be charged with whatever. That would be the way round that you'd like it to happen, if it were to happen at all, and it needs to be very, very quick. And I think part of the problem seems to be, from the police officers I've spoken to and from speaking to officers on this show, is that the IPC just take forever. They could take years and years and years to do this stuff.
I find it quite funny that we just had that report by, I think it was probably Labour-led, that there was no two-tier legal system in this country.
There's a cross-party group of the House of Commons, yeah.
Oh, no, there was nothing two-tier, bloody blah. So people like Lucy Connolly that tweeted like an idiot, don't get me wrong, I'm not defending her. She tweeted something stupid. She did apologise for it. But, them people got their door kicked in at 2 o'clock in the morning, arrested, whisked off to court and sentenced within the space of 3 or 4 days. This fella said about killing MPs last year, and it's only because they've said something at Coachella and said a few football things that it's actually come to light. And the woman that you had on before, not the woman you've just had on, the woman before that, that was obviously defending Kneecap, and it's funny how the far left will always defend anything. So they've actually called for the murder of people. That to me is incitement. They should have been arrested straight away, like all the English people got arrested and put inside. But no, we won't do that. It's like the Labour councillor, I don't know his name, that wanted to slit everyone's throats. What happened to him? Oh, because he's left-wing? Oh, no, it's all right when they do it. That's all right. So don't tell people that there's no two-tier policing and there's no two-tier justice in this country.
Well, do you
all
want,
right? Because we see it.
You want
I've
the same... Lee, hang on. So you want the same treatment that you... Do you think that the treatment of the people in the riots was too harsh?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Right. You're saying the treatment should be equal.
This fella from Kneecap has said exactly the same thing. He's asked for people to be killed. What's happened to him?
All right. Lee, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much indeed for the call.
Ben, do you know, I've been listening to you and getting so cross.
You're not alone, I'll tell you that, Nzingha. Tell me why.
I think it's quite outrageous that people should think that because people have worked hard and acquired a sizable property. I don't have a sizable property. Wish I had, but people have worked hard and they've got their property, and I really think it's unjust to think that they should be forced out of their property.
But Nzingha, I've said explicitly.
Not you, but Tony Blair has millions and millions and millions.
But hold on again, because we got to be very careful here that we're not, being too sort of that we're sticking to the facts. What Tony Blair's foundation is saying is not that anybody should be forced out of their home. Nobody is saying that, and nobody that I know thinks that. What they are saying is that rather than paying council tax, which is based on what your house was worth in 1991, which is 35 years ago almost, people should now pay tax based on what their home is worth now.
And I'll be honest with you, you sound as if you're always having an issue with older people who have achieved and have acquired stuff, and I don't think it's fair.
But again, let me just try and respectfully and politely slightly take on this.
I'm an older person, by the way.
That's absolutely fine. And I'm really pleased you called in, Nzingha, to have this conversation. I'm going to take slight issue, you might not like this, with the idea that people who have got very expensive houses now have them purely because they worked hard. My parents bought a house that is now worth 3 times more than it was when they bought it 20 years ago, for example. They haven't done anything in that time. The house value has just increased because we've got this shortage. The reason that properties are now worth what they are in areas like yours and the places that I grew up in is not because people have worked harder over the last 20 years, it's because we've had a house price boom.